Are you planning on moving your career to a strategic and policy-making position, or perhaps to the C-suite executive level? If that is the case, then you need to start thinking from a strategic perspective. For you to influence the policy of an organization, to shape the vision and align culture of an organization, a strategic mindset is imperative. Welcome to the Institute of Leadership and Strategy and to our executive certification in strategy. This course will tremendously increase your value, impact, and managerial career and prepare you for senior leadership roles. For 10 weeks, you will interact with captains of industry and key strategy experts to develop skills to lead organizations, to deliver on strategy, and to achieve exponential growth. You will understand strategy at the corporate, business, and functional levels and acquire skills in strategic planning, strategy formulation, and strategy execution. Sign up for our next cohort and join the over 500 managers and professionals who have gone through our executive strategy development. The course runs for 10 weekends with in-person and virtual options. We look forward to holding great conversations with you as experienced strategy experts and facilitators share deep corporate insights on business strategy with you. See you in our next session. Are you planning on moving your career to a strategic and policy-making position, or perhaps to the C-suite executive level? If that is the case, then you need to start thinking from a strategic perspective. For you to influence the policy of an organization, to shape the vision and align culture of an organization, a strategic mindset is imperative. Welcome to the Institute of Leadership and Strategy and to our executive certification in strategy. This course will tremendously increase your value, impact, and managerial career and prepare you for senior leadership roles. For 10 weeks, you will interact with captains of industry and key strategy experts to develop skills to lead organizations, to deliver on strategy, and to achieve exponential growth. You will understand strategy at the corporate, business, and functional levels and acquire skills in strategic planning, strategy formulation, and strategy execution. Sign up for our next cohort and join the over 500 managers and professionals who have gone through our executive strategy development. The course runs for 10 weekends with in-person and virtual options. We look forward to holding great conversations with you as experienced strategy experts and facilitators share deep corporate insights on business strategy with you. See you in our next session.
All right, good evening to everyone on this call joining us this evening, and afternoon and morning to those joining us internationally. And we want to specially welcome you all to the ILS webinar series. And as we all know, this is being hosted by the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. And I am Iraja Ejekran, your moderator for this evening's session. Once again, we want to welcome you. This is the September edition. And as it was advertised today, we are discussing the role of leadership and strategy in executive development. We know that in our rapidly evolving business world today, distinguished managers, professionals and leaders are the executives for tomorrow. And they are not simply managing the processes, they are learning, they are inspiring people, they are supposed to shape vision and then align strategy with execution. And that is why today we want to be deliberate about building ourselves, want to be deliberate about developing ourselves to take up those executive roles. And if already you are an executive watching us today, you also want to continue developing yourself to be able to align strategy with execution. And so once again, good evening and you are welcome. A few ground rules before we get into our main business for today. As you all know, we always want to have very engaging sessions with you. And so whilst the facilitator is presenting, you can drop your comments, your questions, your add-ons in the comment section. And when he's done, I will engage the facilitator with your comments. And so if you have any comments at all, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section. And then once he's done, I will engage the facilitator with your comments. All right. So before that, we just want to know a few people who are joining us on the call before I bring in our facilitator, just to get a bit interactive with our audience. Can we know those who are joining us on the call? I'll pick a few of them in the comment section, and then I hand over to our facilitator. Okay, so we have Linda. She says, hi, everyone. Good evening, Linda. You're welcome. Christabel and Kuma says, hello. We have Eric Paddy joining us. He says, hello. And then kindly, he says we should really forward to his emails. All right, sure. We'll take note of that as well. Joseph Asante joining us from Accra. Good evening, Joseph. You're welcome. Samuel Asante says he's the operations manager. Good evening. For confidential reasons, probably we don't want to mention the company, but he says he's the operations manager. So good evening and you're welcome. All right, good evening, Angela, as well. We have a lot of our participants putting in the comment section their name and where they are joining us from. All right, okay, so I'll switch over to our facilitator, and then he gives us a 30 minutes presentation on the role of leadership and strategy in executive development. And so I'll hand over to him. He's been exposed to issues on leadership and strategy. He's a leadership and strategy expert. And so he's been exposed to issues on leadership and strategy across various industries in various organizations. And so be rest assured that he's going to give us a detailed and well-experienced presentation on leadership and strategy. All right. Okay, so our facilitator is in the person of Dr. Jeff Bassay. He is the founder and president of the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. Jeff is a leadership and strategy expert and has consulted and trained for more than 200 organizations, including Bank of Ghana, MTN, Newmont Gold Ghana, USAID, Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Stock Exchange, Kempinski Hotel, Coca-Cola, and Tullow Oil. Jeff holds a BSc in Administration, LLB, an MBA, and a Doctor of Business Administration. Jeff is a chartered accountant and a certified strategy professional. Prior to starting the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, Dr. Jeff Bassay founded the HR Certification Center, which has now been adjudged the #1 HR institution in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, to our facilitator, the person of Dr. Jeff Bassay. You're welcome, Doc.
Right. Thank you so much, Rajwa, and a very good afternoon, good evening to all our August listeners. Thank you once again joining this monthly webinar we roll out. This second half of the year, we have been quite hard on issues of leadership and strategy. And for those of you who have been joining us consistently, don't be bored that we are normally playing around the same topical areas. It's just a series, and once we are done, we will switch over to other equally important areas. Right, so today our focus it's on the importance of understanding issues of leadership and strategy if you are aiming at that C-suite, that the revered C-suite executive role. And indeed, it's an area that nearly everybody is interested in. And if the topical area had not attracted you, probably you would not have been here. I understand we have well over 100 persons online at the moment, some 150 persons online at the moment. We normally record between 300 and 400 participants in our monthly webinars. Indeed, I always say ambition is a seed of all great accomplishments. Ambition is a seed of all great accomplishment. And so it is good, it is okay for you to, aim at wanting to become a C-suite executive. And I am convinced that leadership and strategy are perhaps the most critical skills required for people in management roles or officers in organizations aspiring for the C-suite executive level roles. I've explained different layers at the management level a few times, but let me do that once again, especially when our conversation today is on becoming an executive in a corporate institution. There are fundamentally, three layers of management. I mean, when you get into huge conglomerates, you could have up to 5 layers, etc. But generally, we play with 3 layers of management. The very first layer, which is the lowest of the 3, are the line managers. Most of them are branch managers in various organizations. And so that in a typical bank, for instance, a branch manager could be, easily described as as a level 1 manager. What do they do? Level 1 managers manage people and activities. They are directly at the forefront of implementation of executive decisions that come from the top. Then we have some mid-level guys, normally known as senior managers. What do they do? They manage managers. Senior managers manage managers. And if we were to go by the banking sector example once again, you would, put together a number of branches, say 10 to 15, depending on the cosmopolitan nature of the business environment. You could put this number of branches together and commit to one area or regional manager to superintend or oversee. So fundamentally, that person's work is the manager's manager. He manages managers. But this afternoon, our conversation is going to be on what it takes to be at the top there. They are called the executive managers, the C-suite executive level roles. They are roles that we all aspire, or most of my audience, I'm sure, aspire to be if you are not already there. Some of our trainees actually are already in those roles. Who are the C-suite executive level guys? They manage the organization. They manage the organization. They are the creme de la creme. They make the final decisions for the organizations. And we used to call them directors, but these days, corporate governance dictates is the reason we change their portfolios to chiefs. So you have the chief executive officer, the chief marketing officer, the chief operations officer, the chief risk officer, chief credit officer, chief HR officer, chief finance, chief technology officer, name it, depending on the industry you find yourself. I have a friend who will normally say humorously that he wants to be called a chief. And I'm like, chief, what are you pursuing? He said, chief, anything. As long as chief will precede his title in the organization, he's interested. And we have identified leadership and strategy to be perhaps the most critical skills required, irrespective of your area of or your technical background, whether you are coming from sales, marketing, HR, finance, risk, operations, treasury, even backgrounds in areas of technology, IT, law, engineering, etc. These people all have the capacity to become executives within the organization. And leadership and strategy is 2 key areas identified. I mean, we have played with quite a number of organizations. As a consultant, I have touched base with 242 organizations, dealt with loads of executives and junior managers who I have watched over time, rose through the ranks to become, executives in the organization. And I normally say that if you are planning on moving your career to that strategic and policy-making position, you need to start thinking from a strategic perspective. It is sad how you promote a person, a Ghanaian manager, into a senior or executive level, and they still are running around here and there. At that point, the work is more strategic than operations. The work is more up here in your head than on your hand. The work is more about assessing what is working and what is not working, what to continue, what to stop, etc. Those are the big things or big conversations that are had, at the executive level. So to influence the policy of an organization, to shape the vision of an organization, and for that matter, the culture, a strategic mindset becomes very imperative. And we'll be sharing a few thoughts with you. First and foremost, what is the fundamental difference in the two? When we say a manager must demonstrate, knowledge at the, in leadership and strategy. What does leadership seek to achieve in the organization? For which reason, when managers start demonstrating competency in these areas, they are regarded to be fit for the C-suite. Now, a research that was published by Boston Consulting Group sought to suggest that managers at the lower level, that is layer 1 level managers, as much as 78% of these ones do not even understand what strategy is. Yes, he's been made a branch manager. He's at the forefront of implementing decisions from the top, which require, playing roles in execution of the strategy, but really doesn't understand the environment of strategy. He's only interested in communicating target and etc. 78% of these people. The same research sought to, suggest that those at the mid-level, that is, I'm talking about the senior managers, as much as, 56% of these ones, even more than half of them, still do not, demonstrate or appreciate the importance of strategy, and for that matter, demonstrate skills in these areas. Now, what does leadership seek to achieve? Then what will strategy seek to achieve? I'll give you a quick overview, and then I'll get into the fine details, and then we would also pay attention to a few critical areas, and then take your questions as well. So leadership fundamentally create what I call the blue sky. What is the blue sky? The blue sky is when we have to set the agenda, create that destination, cast vision, provide strategic direction for the organization, inspire people towards accomplishment of this vision, bringing strategic clarity from top to bottom within the organization, aligning systems and structures, creating that sense of optimism, and providing governance structure. That is why there's a lot of relationship between the executive management team and the board of the organization. We have engaged various boards of companies in this country and suggested or sold the idea of how to create the blue sky conversation between the board and the executive management of the organization. So fundamentally, that is what leadership is supposed to be achieving. Maybe my next area of focus will now go down to give you the attributes required to be demonstrated by a manager who in leadership, who seeks to become an executive in the organization. So you can have two managers in the same portfolio, say two branch managers of the same organization. One exhibits flares of leadership. The other is only a manager who doesn't really show leadership. And many a time when people clinch management roles, they easily mistake themselves for leaders. No, there's quite a fine difference between leadership and management. So that for me, in a typical training on a good day, I'll provide you with 18 cogent differences between management and leadership, or managing and leading. But I can dwell on one for purposes of this conversation. Whereas management is about working in a system, leadership is about working on the system. Management works in the system, leadership works on the system. So leadership is fundamentally about creating the blue sky, casting the vision, providing strategic direction, aligning people to the vision, making sure that there is clarity from top to bottom. I call it synchronized thinking. And when you start demonstrating these flares, and sometimes you simply just have to create that sense of optimism. About 3 weeks ago, I spoke to the board of one of the public sector institutions. And of course, we have a new government in place, means that the state-owned organizations will have new boards. And one of the questions that a board member asked me, Jeff, are you really sure that things can change in this organization? I'm not sure. This is public sector. This is how we had always done it, etc. Well, we have already guided many organizations in transforming. And so it was quite easy for me to answer that question that you normally get, particularly for public sector institutions. Can leadership really turn around the fortunes of an organization? There are normally two schools of thought to this question. The first school of thought says, well, organizational leaders, top management, cannot really do much. I mean, due to constraints as characterized by systems and industrial forces, and sometimes even culture and political infiltration that act as inertia and prevent these organizations from being turned around. But I belong to the second school of thought that argues that, yes, organizational leaders, through their strategic actions, are able to affect the organization's performance as they have the capacity, the ability to create systems, structures, set direction, and implement controls that monitor execution within the organization. And for me, anytime I engage boards and executive teams of companies, I invite them to belong to this second school of thought. And we need leadership to create that sense of optimism, possibility in the minds of people that it can be done. I mean, we have worked for the likes of the Kempinski hotels, the Tallow Oils, the Newmonts, and the rest. And we've seen organizations, or executives turn around fortunes in a lot of these companies. Let's have a bit of conversation on leadership. Then I will switch over to strategy. What are the flares required by a manager seeking to get into executive roles? What are those flares you are expected to be exhibiting? One, you need to create what I choose to call a leadership brand. A leadership brand. Now, I am not a branding expert, neither am I a marketing expert, and I'm not going to pretend to be one. But my layman understanding of a brand is that strong positive or negative feeling people get when they hear the name of something or somebody. There's always a strong emotional eruption in people when they hear the name of something or someone, and that will be getting you close to the brand image you are creating in the minds of people, on the minds of people. So that if I mention Benz, as in Mercedes-Benz now, you don't start spelling B-E-N-Z in your head. The things that come to your mind will be comfort, durability, luxury, class, etc. Just because you've heard the name Benz. So I ask managers, do you carry a presence? Do people say, I will not have done this, but because Mr. ABCD, because Madam ABCD mentioned it? What is the general impression people hold of you? Now, in leadership, perception have the same effect, the same impact as reality, because leadership fundamentally have to do with influence and having followership. Now, a leader only succeeds when the people he leads agree that he succeeds. I'll say that again. A leader only succeeds when the people he leads agree that he succeeds. So the impression, the followers, and indeed we all know that a leader without followers will simply be taking a stroll alone, And so the perception they hold of you, whether it is reality or not, as long as it is a perception they hold, it will influence their thought towards you. So what is the general impression? And may I ask this raw one, are you a leader? This is a question I was asked by the immediate past CEO of Tallow Oil, who was consulting for them, Mr. Kwekwa Awatri. Awatri asked me, Jeff, I've seen the work you've done. You seem to have done a bit of work in corporate Ghana. What would you consider as the leadership capacity of the Ghanaian manager? Well, the question quite hit me. I didn't quite get him an answer same day. I have to go think through, have conversations with my pillow. And 2 days after that, I give him a call and share my thought with him. And candidly, this is what I think, that the average Ghanaian manager is trained in hardcore technical skills with management and technical skills with little or no leadership. Now, what is the resultant effect of that? Our organizations, our divisions, our functions are heavily overmanaged and underled. The Ghanaian manager is trained in hardcore management and technical skills with little or no leadership. The resultant effect is how our organizations, our business units, our divisions, our departments are heavily overmanaged and heavily underled. Now, this is what Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, says. He said, when you lead more, you have less to manage. In other words, if you refuse to lead, you have a lot to be managing. So, what is your leadership brand? What impression have you created? Now, fundamentally, leadership is about influence, getting people to willingly do what hitherto they will not be doing by themselves. So after that blue sky picture is painted, that destination is created on people's mind, that vision is casted, that strategic direction is provided, the next thing to do is to achieve synchronized thinking through the leader's ability to influence the people who look up to him. Now, influence can be different from various arenas, and this platform alone will not give us the opportunity to do so. But influence has a lot to do with the leader's own confidence, the leader's ability to get others come along, because nobody will believe in it if the leader himself does not believe in it first and foremost. So leaders' optimism and creating a sense of possibility in the minds of people is really one attribute that makes one a leader. Your ability to encourage the hearts. Folks, there's a lion in every human being. The ability to do great things is in everybody. But some people's lions are sleeping, and it only requires leaders, or it takes leaders to wake those lions up in them. I normally create this scenario asking a woman of 5-month pregnancy to run. She'll quickly tell you she cannot run. Well, keep quiet and release a wild dog after her and see whether she would manage to run or not. The ability to run is in her, except she didn't find the right motivation. I came across a documentary on the shark in the sea. I wasn't actually researching that day. I was just on YouTube, and inadvertently, I stumbled on a documentary on the shark. Then I realized that when you catch a baby shark, I don't know what it's called, so let's call it baby shark. When you catch a baby shark from the sea and put in an aquarium or in a tank of water, even for 10 years, the shark will never outgrow its environment. Yes, sharks, you can check it out this evening. Sharks only grow by the environment they find themselves. So that shark can be in that tank of water for 10 years, and probably the longest it can grow is 8 inches. Do you know when the same shark is taken from the tank of water and placed back in the sea, in a matter of a year or two, it can grow as long as 8 feet. So I ask managers who say they want to be leaders, are you a tank of water or an open ocean to the team members who report to you, who look up to you, who work under your influence? The next one is the leader's ability to demonstrate integrity, and that I'll couple it with emotional intelligence. The higher emotionally intelligent you are, the higher leadership skills we believe you are able to exhibit, because your emotional intelligence have a lot of linkage to your leadership attribute. And just as Daniel Goleman have blessed the world with, leadership, emotional intelligence come with some 5 elements. Number 1, ability to understand yourself, to understand who you are, what your triggers are, etc. Number 2, how do you regulate those emotions so it doesn't affect the next person around you? and then your ability to motivate, to inspire yourself and inspire people around you, and then your ability to live among other people. Call it social skills. Diversity is a way of life. I mean, sometime next month, we are doing in just October, that will be starting tomorrow, we are running a nationwide session for all staff of Telecel. And what do they want us to do for them? Very simply, issues of diversity, unconscious bias, etc. Because everybody cannot be like you. And your ability to manage your own emotions and that of those around you, just so that we can work together. Now, if you do not appreciate the fact that everyone cannot be like you, I want to humbly suggest to you that you are far from leadership and you are not as mature yet. Then your ability to work on systems. Like I said, management is about working in a system. This is how we do it here. This is how it has always been done in the insurance sector. This is how we do it in the public sector. The moment a leader arrives, they start questioning the system, challenging the status quo, questioning the processes, and finding out why it cannot be done in a better way. Because really, leadership only starts when we disagree with the results. The moment you are satisfied with the status quo, chances are that you're not going to do anything about the situation. So the moment a leader arrives and start questioning the status quo and challenging the processes and finding out whether there cannot be better system, then we know that a leader is here now. Your ability to work on the systems, because the challenges will never stop, but the leader's ability, the manager's ability to rise to the challenges is what really makes you. The next one I want to talk about as an attribute, if you are developing yourself and preparing for that C-suite executive role, is your ability to drive and lead change. Folks, size is no longer an advantage to any organization. Size used to be, we are big, we can handle big ticket deals. No. Today, organizations that want to have continuous, sustainable, competitive advantage are the ones who are able to learn and act faster than the competition. Now, when I talk about learning, I'm not referring to training and development. I am referring to the organization's ability to conduct situation analysis, refocus or readjust their strategic choices, and then align the structures of the organization, experiment and implement this. And this must be done constantly because of the VUCA business world we find ourselves today. How volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous our business world has become requires that leaders are able to, or managers are able to demonstrate strong ability to drive and lead change. Now, change management is a leadership and strategy agenda. And if you do not quite appreciate the dictates of leading and, for that matter, managing strategy, it will be difficult for you to be successful at change management, which is one of the key requirements today. Now, those days where or let me rather put it this way. Today, I see a lot of younger persons clinching the C-suite executive roles. Those days, if you are not 50, 55 or whatever, you don't become an executive in an organization. But these days, I see people in their mid-30s, 33, 34, 35, 36. Benjamin Dabra became the chief executive officer of Barclays Bank Ghana at the age of 36. And at the time Benjamin Dabra was in charge, most of his executives were under 40. Now, why is that so? Those were the days where old age was attributed to wisdom. And let me say with all humility, no disrespect to elderly folks listening to me, but let me say that today it is only in primitive societies that we associate wisdom to old age. Now, old age was important for wisdom those days because things hardly changed. So that guy who traveled that road and is taking his seat as an old man and is telling you, the younger one, you see that road you're about to travel, take your time on the road. When you are negotiating that curve, slow down because there's a big pothole just when you enter the curve, etc. That was a relevant wisdom at the time. Why is it no longer relevant today? Because things are changing thick and fast, and chances are we are not going back to travel the same road that was traveled for, which has become the basis for wisdom. So today, organizations are looking for young executives who demonstrate key skills in strategy, in technology, the ability to, they have the technical savvy, and they're able to lead and show strategy to guide the organization to navigate everyday challenges as the organization meets them. And one of the interesting definitions I give to experience is this, that experience is not necessarily duration. So that if two couples mean four human beings, right? Couple A have dated for 2 years before marriage. The guy never got broke once, have no idea how a woman behaves at home when a man is broke, etc. Couple B have dated for just 6 months. The man have been broke for 6 times. Every month, one broke, normally around 20th of the month, etc. Today, both couples are married and both men are broke. Which of the two men have better experience? The 6 months, not the 2 years. You know why? Because experience is about occurrences and reactions to events, much more than how long you have been there. I agree that the longer you have been there, the more the chance that things would happen. But really, experience have more to do with occurrences and reactions to events, much more than how long. That is how come today you see people come out of university, and within 5-6 years, some of them have become senior managers, and before long, they have become C-suite executives in the organization because they demonstrate some of these things we are sharing far beyond the technical skills for which they are hired. You are hired as a salesperson, as a credit person, as an HR person, as a finance person, as a marketing person, as an operations person, as an engineering person. And that makes all of you common. No matter how important something is, the moment it becomes common, it loses its significance. Everybody have the technical skills. What else are you demonstrating that will exempt you from the rest? If it got to be significant, it got to be uncommon. If it had to be significant, it got to be uncommon. Your ability to engage and to communicate. Let me switch over to a few attributes required to demonstrate your understanding of strategy beyond your technical know-how, why we should trust you with C-suite executive role. The first is for you to try to understand the environment of strategy. I know that is an abused word, strategy. But do managers really know what strategy is? What is the environment of strategy? Now, so organizations set out with a mission statement, call it purpose. They also aspire at a vision. So visions are always futuristic. And because of that, this organization have to formulate plans and break down steps and goals that will help them to get to those visions. But no organization operates out of a vacuum. In fact, strategy formulation is all about relating an organization to its environment. So your ability to understand the environmental factors, talking about the industry analysis, the market analysis, the customer analysis, conducting your political, economic, sociocultural, technological, legal environment. The moment the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end to that establishment is in sight. When the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, that organization will soon go home. In other words, if the organization's internal responses do not commensurate the exogenous or external forces, chances are that organization will soon close down. So your ability to understand how all of these things work, how do we formulate an internal strategy that commensurates the external changes relating the organization to its environment? Strategy fundamentally should be understood at 3 levels. the corporate level, the business unit level, and the functional level. So at the corporate level, is organization driving a growth strategy? And because strategy fundamentally is about making choices, I always say that the courage to choose is the heart of strategy. So even when we say we want to drive a growth strategy, the organization will choose one of various ways to drive that change: market penetration, product development, market development, diversification. What is the understanding of the manager in this strategy, and how do any of these choices at the corporate level, for instance, affect your functional decisions? How do you align the decisions of the department to it? The organization may also say we want to drive a stability strategy, probably because there's a global economic crunch, probably because the economy is not too good, probably because the market you're operating in has become a saturated market, probably because the organization is satisfied with its achievement and have invested so much in assets and will want to, as it were, deploy those assets to demonstrate return on the asset, for which reason we want to protect our gains, consolidate our gains from the hyenas in the industry from stealing from us. The organization may also decide to even drive a retrenchment strategy when certain divisions are serving as a drain on the rest. We want to cut off some so we can focus on the core in order to drive growth. Normally we use the G. McKinsey 9-boss metrics to drive some of these decisions and choices at the executive level. For very huge or large conglomerate firms with very experienced CEOs, you may even drive what we call a combined strategy. Whilst we are stabilizing some parts of the organization at the corporate level, we are retrenching some, yet we are also growing certain functions. At the business level, organizations make one of two decisions: whether to drive a cost-focused strategy or call it cost leadership strategy. How do we reduce cost of operations? And by that, we can afford to lower our prices and still have a profit margin. In the midst of that, we have to make a choice between two: either to reduce price and drive buyer base. As basic economists will tell us, the lower the price, the more the buyers. Or, if that will lead to what we call price war, then we may rather decide to, lower cost of production to increase our profit margin. One of those two choices. But mostly, cost leadership strategy companies will want to target the middle to the lower class people. And how will functional decisions support this kind of ideology? Otherwise, the organization may be driving what we call the differentiation strategy, where you want to set the product apart from competition by investing in premium features that will, that will attract a certain class of society to want to pay premium prices for this. Now, either of these two decisions affect a lot of operational issues within the organization, and the understanding of the manager in these, strategy issues, whether at the corporate, business, or the functional level. There are also the focus strategies, etc., but let's leave those for now. Then the next critical one is the manager's ability to demonstrate effective understanding of strategy formulation and development, what we call the strategic plan. We have led strategic plan development for quite a number of firms in this country, from the banks to the estate firms, etc., the insurance organizations here and there. We just delivered that on the Bank of Ghana's hospital to them here and there. We formulated that of Prudential Life Insurance. Yes, we were only assisting them. We didn't develop their own plan for them, etc. But we've touched base with quite a number of them. Now, each time we have to lead these organizations to either formulate their strategy or develop them, I see how non-executive managers in the class, I'm talking about the line managers and the rest, who hardly get invited to strategy sessions anyway, because of their seeming understanding of it. But if you even get invited, I see how sometimes they are unable to contribute to the conversation carefully because of their limitation in understanding how these strategies are formulated. from the step 1 to step 2, step 3, and step 4, where is the heart of the issue, where apart from setting the goals, we come out with strategy alternative. Then we evaluate each of those alternatives from the financial perspective, from the time required by the organization, from the impact on the brand image of the organization. Then we make decisions and anchor them into stakeholder demands and the philosophy of top leadership within the organization. Your ability to understand how strategy is formulated and developed into what we call a strategic plan. Then issues of growth strategies generally. Are you operating in the blue ocean, red ocean? How is that affecting your choices as a manager within the organization? Another area we emphasize in strategy before I sign off is the financials. Listen, accounting or finance is the language of business. And I tell people, I don't care what you manage, whether you are in charge of marketing or HR or IT or engineering. If you are serious about C-suite executive level role, you must have basic understanding of the financial statement. Talk about the balance sheet that tells the financial position of the organization at a given point in time, or the income statement that tells us the profit or loss position of the company, or the cash flow statement that tracks how monies come into the business, where are they coming from, how the monies leave the business, what are we spending these monies on. The various financial metrics that form the KPI that measure what we are doing. These are the conversations at the executive table when you go for an executive meeting. The budgeting system of the organization. I simply call it the financials. And finally is the execution, the strategy execution. Many companies know how to develop strategy, but they do not have an idea, or let me say many managers may understand what we go through to formulate the strategy, etc. But when it comes to execution, how to develop an implementation plan and track the plan, strategies are not static plans. They are emergent, they are fluid, and your ability to review them consistently and adjust them to the environment and back them with implementation plan and allocate resources and align people and culture to be able to drive the strategy to deliver on product promises to customers and by extension, achieve organizational vision. To be able to get to the C-suite executive level, you need to be prepared to shape culture, to set vision, to lead change processes for the organization you work for if you want to rise to those positions. The time is 5:50, 10 minutes to our ending. I understand there are questions coming. I hope we are able to respond to all of them. We have close to 300 persons online. The few questions we are able to address, we'll address them. Otherwise, of course, you can always get in touch with us later on if you are interested in your leadership and strategy development into executive level roles in organization. I want to hand over to the moderator to take us through some of the questions we would answer before we sign off for today. If you're on, don't go yet. We have a very important announcement for you for your personal and executive development to the top.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jeff Bassay, for that insightful presentation. And we hope that our listeners have taken a thing or two in thriving in their various organizations. And as Dr. Bassay mentioned, the executives of tomorrow are not simply those who manage processes, but those who inspire people, shape vision, and align strategy with execution. And so on that note, thank you very much, Dr. Bassay. And so we want to switch over to the Q&A session where we pick the thoughts of our listeners. If you have any comments, questions, you can drop them in the comment section whilst I engage our facilitator with our questions. We have some 10 minutes to sign off, and so we want to quickly do our Q&A session before we sign off for today's webinar. All right, so we'll take the first question here from Eric. Whilst we take the first question, if any other person has some questions, you can drop them. All right, so from Eric Smith, he says that, How can executive development align leadership with automation, ESG goals, and geopolitical risk to drive long-term transformation? Right, so over to you, Doc.
All right. All those things that you have mentioned are very important, from technology, AI, and ESG, etc. Now, who are the people who make decisions on these things? They are the executives. So I have always said technology, for instance, is never a competition to man. Of course, except you are playing your ball down there. Otherwise, these decisions are taken from the top, and how they affect the organization's transformation. Nobody argues with success. Nobody argues with results. And any manager who puts himself out there and demonstrate knowledge of how change must be managed, how leadership should be executed, and how strategy should be implemented in the organization are the very ones who get promoted into positions that take decisions on some of these things. And I always tell managers in organizations that the organization will not decide on all of you becoming executives. So you must take your own career destiny into your hands, not always waiting for management or executive to decide that we are sending you on training, etc. So the very things you are mentioning, do not militate against. Who set the ESG goals? They are the executives. The geopolitical risks that drive the long-term transformation are strategic decisions that are made by executives in the organization. And so I can only encourage you to work your way to the top, so you become the people who make decisions on these things. Otherwise, when you are down there, the decisions then affect you and take you out of the system.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bassay. Mr. Eric Smith, we hope that your question has been answered. Over to the next question. We would have Mr. Samuel Asante's question. He says, thank you, Dr. Jeff. And then his question is, what kind of environment can one create to enable growth in one's team? Thank you. So over to you, Doc.
Yes, very well. Today, I said that there is always the University of Google and the rest, because of the constant changes. I mentioned already that today, size is no longer an advantage to any organization, and that if you want to maintain continuous, sustainable, competitive advantage, you got to be learning and acting faster than the competition. And for individual managers, today we don't learn in case, we actually learn in time. The days where we used to learn in case, I'm learning A, B, C, D in case. No, today we learn in time and not just in case. So I can just encourage you. And because you have mentioned the growth of the team, you want to sign up yourself for our team leadership and people management masterclass. It's a 2-day hot masterclass, and by the time you are out, your confidence and knowledge on how to lead the team for performance and productivity will be up. We ran it on quarterly basis. Unfortunately, we ran one just last week, and so the next one I think is in November or so. You can contact the Institute of Leadership and Strategy after the session ends, just so you know when we run our team leadership and people management masterclass. It's a 2-day masterclass that caused a lot of change. The one we just ended had Bank of Ghana staff sponsored in it. Senate brought 10 of their managers. Big Bank brought a number of their managers. So indeed, we have a lot of private individuals who also passed through our immediate. That was just last week. We did our Q3, masterclass on team leadership and people management.
All right. Thank you, Doc and Mr. Asante. Hope that this addresses your question. We'll take one question from Mr. Augustus Annan, who says, what constitutes leadership skills? Is it a single skill or a group of skills? What constitutes leadership skills? Is it a single skill or a group of skills?
Indeed, a group of skills. And if Mr. Augustus Annan have listened to me, I didn't quite exhaust them, but I mentioned a few. Your ability to cast vision, to provide strategic direction, to influence people, inspire them, and focus their attention on why the organization or the task exists, your ability to encourage the heart, because leadership is about causing people to do what willingly or hitherto, your own influence by way of your demonstration of integrity, ability to influence people. All of those things are emotional intelligence. So it's a set of skills. The question rather I don't like middling in is, are leaders born or made? I don't care whether you are born or not. Leadership is a skill, and anybody can learn. Once it's a skill, it can be learned, and for that matter, anybody can become a leader. We have facilitated leadership trainings for too many organizations in this country: Prudential Life Insurance, MTN, Bank of Ghana, Casapreco, Coca-Cola, Kempinski Hotel. We'll be with Marriott Hotel next month, October, training their hired technical managers to become leaders within the organization. So anybody can acquire the skills of being a leader or becoming a leader.
All right, Mr. Anand, anybody can become a leader. All right, so we'll take our final question. We just have about 3 minutes to sign off, and so we'll take our final question and then we can wrap up for this evening. All right, so our final question from Makafui Anane Anku says, what happens when your managers have delight in sticking to the standard operating procedures of the company of which you, the supervisor, realized they are not helping your day-to-day operations? So he says, what happens when your managers have delight in sticking to the standard operating procedures of the company of which you, the supervisor, realized that they are not helping your day-to-day operations? Doc, can you take that for us, please?
Well, I've always insisted that one of the most difficult levels of leadership is midway leadership. When you are not the ultimate, you don't make the final decisions, you need to subject your decisions or your choices to the approval of a higher authority. The most powerful tool you are left with at that level is your influence, your suggestions, and if you may, your ability to cause them to see things through your eyes. So the only thing you can rely on at that point is to be making suggestions and to influence the system. Who even said leadership is always about position? Position only gives you access to leadership, the right to exercise authority, to direct the actions and inactions of others. But leadership is more functional than position of authority. And if at all you have ever seen a deputy, in a particular portfolio exhibit more leadership flares than the substantive position occupant, that should lend credence to what I'm saying. So, McAfee, even in your position where you are not the ultimate yet, you can start making some influences by how differently you do your things, and that can give you a foot in the door for your superiors to listen to you and consider your suggestion. But in course of that, don't forget, if you have ever read the 48 Laws of Power, never outshine your master. Otherwise, you will achieve the opposite. So you need to be very tactful, very diplomatic if you are positioning to influence people above you.
All right. Thank you very much, Doc. Forgive us if we were not able to touch on your questions. Like we always say that the 1 hour for this webinar is mostly not enough to address all our questions, our comments. And so probably you want to sign up for our courses, which I'll be talking about shortly. You want to sign up for our courses and then probably get some in-depth knowledge on most of your issues. And so forgive us if we're not able to touch on your question or your suggestions. All right, so we'll be wrapping up shortly. Just a few announcements. We want to talk about our Certified Strategy Professional course, which is our flagship course for the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. This is a 10-week intensive strategy training to build managers, professionals, to be at the C-suite. And if you're already there, you also want to come for some strategy knowledge to better develop yourself to be that leader that the organization is seeking. And so it's a 10-week course. The next cohort, we currently have a cohort ongoing. I think they are in week 8, and so that's too late to join. If you want to join the Certified Strategy Professional course, the next cohort is starting on the 15th of November 2025. We just have about a month and 2 weeks to go, and so you want to contact us to register. Registration is ongoing. We have a couple of people registering already to take off on the 15th of November. So you want to register. You need to be in a management role or a professional in any field, and then you qualify to be in the Certified Strategy Professional course. It runs for 10 weekends. We also have the Executive Leadership Program, which runs for 5 days. 5 days Executive Leadership Program. The 8th cohort is also happening on the 3rd to 7th November. 3rd to 7th November, we are having the 8th cohort of the Executive Leadership Program. The strategy course is also the 8th cohort. The 7th cohort is currently in session, and so that's the 8th cohort for the strategy. And then for the leadership program, we also have the 8th cohort upcoming on the 3rd to 7th of November. 5 days, pure executive leadership training. We are going to be engaging with captains of industries who will be engaging on top issues on leadership. And so you also want to register. Probably you may have some questions, some ideas that you wanted to talk about on this webinar. We encourage you to join our executive leadership program, and then you have deep insights on all of that. All right. So like I mentioned, if you want to register for either our executive leadership program or our certified strategy professional course, you want to contact us on the number 0244 268672. 0244 268672. You just call, or you can send us a WhatsApp message, and then we would register you. Call or WhatsApp that number 0244 268672. And we are also located at East Legon, on the Mensvik Hotel Stretch, just behind the GT Bank. And so if you want to locate us, this is where we are located at East Legon, just behind the GT Bank. All right. You can also follow us on social media, and we are very active on all social media platforms. You can follow us to get updates on our upcoming programs, even to know when the next webinar will be coming on. And so you want to follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, even on TikTok. We are very active on across all social media platforms. ILS Executive, you just search for us, follow us, and then you can get updates on all our upcoming courses and programs. All right, so I mentioned our number 0244. It's actually rolling on the screen now, so you can pick it up, 0244 268672, to contact us for any inquiry at all. All right, so thank you all so much. This is where we want to draw the curtains on this evening's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. I have been Irajo J. Klein, and I have been your moderator for this session. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month for our next webinar series. Have a good night.
Are you planning on moving your career to a strategic and policy-making position, or perhaps to the C-suite executive level? If that is the case, then you need to start thinking from a strategic perspective. For you to influence the policy of an organization, to shape the vision and align culture of an organization, a strategic mindset is imperative. Welcome to the Institute of Leadership and Strategy and to our executive certification in strategy. This course will tremendously increase your value, impact, and managerial career, and prepare you for senior leadership roles. For 10 weeks, you will interact with captains of industry and key strategy experts to develop skills to lead organizations, to deliver on strategy, and to achieve exponential growth. You will understand strategy at the corporate, business, and functional levels, and acquire skills in strategic planning, strategy formulation, and strategy execution. Sign up for our next cohort and join the over 500 managers and professionals who have gone through our executive strategy development. The course runs for 10 weekends with in-person and virtual options. We look forward to holding great conversations with you as experienced strategy experts and facilitators share deep corporate insights on business strategy with you. See you in our next session.
To lead at the highest levels, strategy must be your language. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is Ghana's premier training destination for professionals preparing for C-suite and senior executive roles. The Certified Strategy Professional Program is a 10-week executive course designed to deepen your strategic expertise across key modules with flexible weekend sessions online and in person. You can locate us at East Legon, Accra, or call 0244-268672. That's 0244-268672 today to register. Institute of Leadership and Strategy, developing managers and corporate executives.